If you want to learn how to bend those ropes like yin yang mom jeans, you've come to the right place. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys a great etude you can practice to get your string bending skills up to snuff, as well as a whole bunch of tips to turn you into a more better shredder today. Check it out. Hey there kids, it's your string bending buddy, Uncle Ben. Learning how to do more better bends is such an important part of your guitar playing journey. String bending is one of the most unique things we can do with our instrument. It separates us from those animals known as keyboard players, and it's a huge part of the sonic thumbprint of some of our favorite players, like YOLO Mouth Taste. I put together this etude in the neighborhood of E minor for you guys to practice to get your bends more in tune and gain more control over them. I'm going to show you guys how to play the thing and then give you a whole bunch of tips later on in the video. You're going to get the most out of this video if you grab all the bonus goodies over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. It's the greatest place on the internet. People are saying it, and I'm repeating that people are saying it. Sign up today for access to hundreds of bonus exclusive posts, as well as the guitar profiles, tabs, and practice tracks I made to go along with this here video. Patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. I'll see you guys over there. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm going to be using my Fender American Ultra 2 Strat in the beautiful solar flare finish that I adore so much, and I'm playing that through the legendary sound of the Soldano SLO100R Rackmount unit. The perfect amp for people who like things that are nice. I like things that are nice. Now let's hear that thing again at stepdad speed. So this all evolved out of a way I used to show my guitar students how to improve their bends, where you just take a note, like let's say this G note right here, and then you just quickly play the one right behind it and bend up to the note that you just heard a second ago, like this. You can do that from a half step away like I just did, or a whole step. But the point is to kind of get the scent in your nostrils, so to speak. Hear the target pitch first, and then bend to the target pitch. Each one of these phrases in the E minor scale is built around that idea. We're going to be using half step and whole step bends, bending primarily with our third or second finger in front. Again, we'll talk tips later on. But here's how the first phrase goes. We're going to start off here on the B string on the E note. This is all the E minor scale, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, and we're going to be playing up and down that string. Here's the first phrase. So you can say I walked up the scale, and then return to the note right behind the one I just played, and bend up to them. Next, go to the F sharp note in the scale, so we're going to be in this position. And this time we're going to have a whole step bend to get up to this A note. Start off on G, A, B, C, D, and then E. After this, we're going to start the descending portion where instead of walking up 3 notes, we're actually going to walk down 3 notes and then bend back up to that first note that we heard. So the first time here we're starting off on G, then F sharp, E, D, ooh, that was a spicy one. That was a little better. C, B, A, and then G. Now let's talk about some technique tips and other ways to practice this to get even more out of it. Now obviously we played all that on the second string. The B string I chose because it's the most pliable one. On most string sets it's the one with the lowest tension, so it's easiest to bend. That way we can practice this a little bit more and not get totally burnt out. But you should also be practicing this on the other strings as well. See, whenever we're bending on the B, we're primarily pushing the string up like 90% of the time. Because if you bend it down, you're probably going off the edge of the neck, right? But you need to practice your downward bending as well, which is why I would take this exact same exercise and either just, I don't know, move it up a string to the G here, so now it's in C minor. Or you could just move all those positions around in the E minor scale, starting off here on the E note on the G string. Whenever you're bending on the G, we're pulling the string down, which is the more powerful motion that you can make with your hands. Generally speaking, if you can bend the string towards the floor, you're going to have more success just because your hand is naturally stronger contracting than it is expanding. So be sure to practice this on different strings. That way you can practice your upward bends and your downward bends. Bending is obviously one of the coolest and most expressive sounds that we can use on the guitar, but nothing sounds worse than an out of tune bend. And this etude is really designed around helping you get those bends in tune. Now, one thing that you're going to be able to do to practice this even more better is to put a tuner on your guitar. Whether it's a clip-on tuner, a pedal tuner, any tuner that tracks really, really fast. And what I want you guys to do is whenever you're doing that bend, watch that needle move on the tuner. You know, try to learn how to hear when it's right there in tune. Try to memorize what that spot feels like, what it sounds like, all of it. Pay really close attention. But having that tuner going is kind of like, I don't know, spell check for your guitar playing. It tells you if you are in tune or not. Kind of takes the guesswork out of it. The tuner on the Axe Effects works really fast, so if you have an Axe Effects, do that. But like the TC Polytune works really well. Some of those clip-on tuners like the Snarks track pretty fast too. But be sure to practice this using your tuner so you can be sure you're getting those bends exactly where they need to be. As you're learning how to get your bends in tune with this etude, I want you to practice it without any juicy vibrats on there. Just do the bend, get it in tune, and hold it there, like this. Make sure you can get that note in tune, dead on balls accurate every time. You got to learn how to get it in tune before you can even start worrying about adding vibrato on it. Because whenever you're doing that vibrato, it needs to be in tune also. Let me explain. Here's the problem that a lot of people have. They think of doing vibrato on a bend as getting the note up to pitch and then adding shake onto it from there, like this. Sounds terrible, right? Sounds like the ghost of Tiny Tim or something. You want to be sure to get that bend totally in tune, reliably every single time. And then when you start thinking about adding the vibrato on, which is the cool, expressive part that gets chicks, or really, if we're being honest, more dudes talking to you after the show, you want to think about it as rebending. Get the note up to pitch, let the bend down a little bit, then take it right back up to pitch every single time. Whenever you just do a bend and then add vibrato on it, you're kind of going over pitch. It's out of tune. It sounds terrible. But you want to think of your vibrato and bends as being like bending and then rebending repeatedly. Kind of like this right here. So check it out. I'll do a half-step bend, let it down, take it back up, let it down, take it back up. I don't really think of it as vibrato. I think of it as rapid rebending. And you can make that really shallow, where you're letting the bend down just a little bit for a more subtle sound, or you can let it all the way down to the natural note that you fretted and bring it all the way back up every time if you want a wider, more dramatic sound. But the point is, it has to be in tune at the top of that bend every single time. And you're not going to be able to do that if you can't just do this. And get the bend totally in tune with no vibrato on it. So be sure to practice it dry first, then start adding those juicy vibrats on top. So we talked about practicing this on other strings, bending up and down, doing it with no vibrato at first, then adding the vibrato on. Let me give you guys some tips on what not to do here, because bending the strings is a very physical thing, and if you're not doing it right, you can hurt yourself or at least burn out a lot quicker than you would if you were using the right technique. Now, one thing that you want to avoid doing is making one finger do all the work. I remember whenever I started playing guitar, I thought that bending strings was the hardest thing in the world because I was making one finger do the job. So in other words, whenever I played that first lick, here's how I would have played it back in the day. Do you see that right there? I'm making one finger lift this string, which has like, 12 pounds of tension or whatever on it, and it's just getting tighter the more you bend it. That's just no way to do this. Put multiple fingers on the job at all times. You'll notice I have my third finger on the note, but I pile my first and second fingers on behind it just for added leverage and added strength. So don't make one finger do the job. Always pile on extras if you can. If you're bending with your second finger, at least put your first finger behind it. If you're bending with your fourth finger, put everybody on deck, and it's going to be a lot easier to push that string up to the ceiling or pull it down to the floor either way. So always team lift whenever you're doing bends. Another thing about using your fingers is a lot of people that get into doing bends initially try to do them all with finger strength, like this right here, kind of doing the finger push-up move, right? Or pull down if you're bending on the G like that. I'm not going to say you shouldn't do that, because there are a lot of players out there who have done incredible things. Watch Dimebag Darrell play. That guy is like all finger bends and vibrato, and it's insane. Sounds like anybody else using their wrist, but he's doing it with just his fingers, which is pretty amazing. But generally speaking, for the rest of us mere mortals that aren't as awesome as Dimebag Darrell, see me, we tend to get a lot more success using the wrist for our bends. And the way that you're going to do that is using this door hinge technique. Now you'll notice I kind of have the neck of my Fender American Ultra 2 Stratocaster here in the web of my palm. You see that right there? I've got it right here resting inside of my hand. Whenever I'm in that position, it puts that bone on the side of the base of my index finger against the neck, as well as my thumb on the top of the neck. And I can open and close that as if it was a door swinging on a hinge. You see that move? Now if you combine that action right there, which is coming from your wrist and forearm, which are the big muscles, these are the little muscles, use the big muscles whenever you can. If I can combine that with gripping tightly on a note with a couple of fingers, then I can use my entire forearm to bend that string. And it's a lot easier than using these teeny tiny muscles, asking them to do precision work while barely hanging on like that. It doesn't really work well for me. So most all of us tend to do better if we're using the wrist and forearm, using that door hinge technique. So be sure to give that a shot rather than making your fingers do all the work. And the last thing I want to tell you guys to do here is to respect the physicality of doing this. You only have so many reps in a day. Think about it like going to the gym or something, right? You can't just do bicep curls all day and expect your muscles to not wear out, right? Bending the strings, especially the low strings, takes a lot of physicality. You're taking this string that has like at least 12 pounds of tension on it, sometimes up to 20 or 30 pounds of tension on it, and you're pushing it around with your fingertips. Come on guys, that's a lot of muscle that goes into that, and you have to respect the physicality of it. Don't practice the stuff all day. If your tendons are screaming, put it down for a while. You only have so many reps in a day. That's why you should make them count and practice using the tuner and practice with the right technique. That way you're getting the most out of that limited amount of reps that you have every day. So there you go guys, follow those tips and practice that etude. You're gonna be bending the strings like the next Yo-Yo Valvoline. Be sure to snag the practice tracks, the guitar profiles, the tabs, and hundreds of other goodies over on that Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. And also be sure to like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold right here for you guys. Now get away from the computer machine, grab that guitar, and mash some rope. Get into it. Less clicking, more picking.